You can do it. Starting off with YouTube, where would you be without YouTube? Like, what would you be doing today? I don't know if you'd be sitting here talking to me.
Yeah, I don't think you'd want to be talking to me. You'd be like, what is this desk job? I don't care about this guy. I mean, before I started social media and YouTube, I got into IT staffing, technical recruiting, kind of like, headhunting, hire people for other jobs. It's actually what my mom has been doing for like over 20 years. So I just kind of fell into that kind of world. Really good job.
Right.
Got it out of college, and it was really right when I started my full-time job was right. It all kind of worked out that when I got into the real world of corporate, that's the exact time that I got into social media.
Right.
That's right around where I met Nick Wright, and I'm assuming I would just keep doing that. But it's like hard to answer that question.
Yeah, it's impossible. So much time is going.
I can never even answer the like. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? I'm like, I don't know. Hopefully doing a little better. But it's like, what are we doing? I don't know. I mean, social media has changed my world. Picking up that camera has changed my world, and it's a Twilight episode. If I've had to go back and be like, you never met Nick, or you never decided to like try on YouTube.
There's so many what ifs that are thrown in there. It's like incredible.
I like to think that one of my buddies, his name's Rob Lipset. Sometimes whenever we go on vacation or something, we're on, let's say, in Ibiza, we're on like a boat or something. He always says, he's like, it's crazy to think that like every choice and decision you've made in your entire life has led you to this exact moment.
Isn't that crazy to think about that?
Yeah, so it's on another aspect, but even like, being right here, it's like every decision that I've made, in my life, or really, in the past 8 years of social media, has like, just every decision has gotten me to like this point.
Right.
Being in my warehouse, with a team around me, and doing this podcast. It's it's like, it's kind of like butterfly effect. If one thing had changed differently, the whole future would be different.
It's kind of like winning the lottery. If the little like ball fell into a different slot, then you wouldn't have.
It's also sometimes even cool to think, like, especially now that I have a team and some employees. If you go deeper into that, it's like, if I had never done it, what are the people that are like the core that are helping all of the things we're doing grow? Like, what would they be doing? Like their lives. It's just interesting how it has this like chain of reactions of, because I did this, now these people are working with me for the past, Mona, for example, has been with me for like 4 years.
Right.
It's like, I wonder what Mona would be doing for like the last 4 years if like, she had never met me, or if I'd never, it's wild to think. So it's cool. I'm glad where I'm at. I'm glad that I have the people around me that are, helping me, and we'll see what the future holds for us.
Now, before Sour Strips, before Ever Forward, there was just YouTube. Now,
the golden years.
The golden years, yeah. Before the golden doodles.
Yeah.
But was there like a moment, or was there a video that popped off where you really looked like at your analytics, you really looked at yourself in the mirror and you're like, I can do this. Like, I can really make something of myself by keep posting content online?
I had this conversation with someone recently. I think the difference between now and when I started and was really coming up is that I was doing social media. People, like a lot of the people that were around me, or that were, in the fitness community, people were just doing it because it was fun. Like, it wasn't, there was a couple of people that were making some money from it, but it was just like a hobby. You didn't do it because you're like, I can't wait till I hit this certain point so then I can turn it into full time. Whereas now people are, whether you starting a podcast, starting a YouTube channel, starting to post on Instagram, showing your workouts, right? You get to a certain point, you're like, okay, now I can start selling something. Now I can, like, I'm an influencer. It's like it was a different like era back then. It wasn't the same. I don't think people had the same mindset of like you had to hit a certain point. It was just like, hey, I'm just doing my thing. Like, I'm just doing it, and because you had no expectations of what. You had no expectations, like there's no letdown, because you were just like, I just keep making videos. I just keep making videos.
Right.
And I mean, there's a point when I was about 3 years into, I guess it was 2 years into my corporate world, which I was like, man, I really want to do this social media thing full time, but I was really super, I was nervous, and definitely it was like a financial thing, and it was still very not the norm to go do this social media thing full time, even back in 2016 when I quit. But I knew that it was when I started. I guess my realization was when I started realizing that I couldn't travel. back then collabs were a lot bigger of a thing than they are now.
Right.
Really, especially in the fitness community. It's just as weird as it is, it's like not as common. They don't do as much anymore.
Right.
But back then, it's like you'd always collab. You want to be traveling all the time and filming with these people and filming with these videos. And I was like, I'm missing out on these opportunities because I can't take off from work. I can't do this. So about 2 years into my corporate job, I started tracking my finances, just seeing how much money I was making from social media, clothing, all of it kind of combined. And I tracked it all for a year. And once I found out that it was relatively the same each month, I was like, okay, like that's consistent income for a year. I have some saved up in the bank. YOLO. I'm going. And I remember for like 2 weeks, I was like, pick up the phone. Pick up the phone, Max. Like, pick up the phone.
It's so much easier said than done.
Call your boss. Like today's the day you're quitting. And it was July 4th weekend in 2016 that I called and put in my 2 weeks. And what's interesting is my boss, as soon as I told him that I was quitting, he was like, I knew it was coming. Like he like understood. He's like, and he was like, you know, if I was in your shoes, I would do the exact same thing. You know, he's like, you have all of our support. You know, and I can't remember if he said this exactly, but it was kind of like, you know, if it doesn't work out, like, come on back. Like, you know, he was super cool and everyone was really supportive of it. But I did call my mom I think it was like the day before, or even the day of. I was like, Mom, I think I'm going to quit. Like, I think I'm going to try to do this thing. And she was like, I you know, just being a mom, very, you know, protective of her son. She was kind of like, you know, I don't know, like you need to have like 3 months of savings or 6 months of savings, you know, like, you know, maybe do a little longer, like, you know, and just being, and I was like, Mama, I was like, well, this isn't really me calling you to ask if I can do this. I'm telling you that I'm doing it. And now, you know, now my mom couldn't be more proud of me and happy, and she loves me as YouTuber Max, and you know, and she supports everything that I do. And obviously now that I've proven that I can do it, and now I've been out of corporate longer than I was in corporate.
Wow,
which is pretty wild.
Do you miss it?
Nah,
I didn't think so. Most people don't.
And what I try to do is, because I've been in corporate and I've been in those cubicle and been in that environment, now that I have like employees and a team, luckily I'm able to like remember the things that I liked and didn't like about it, and be like, I want to make sure that this never gets to that. No matter how big we get, I want to make sure that we, you know, I don't get to the point where people are starting to feel like they're in that kind of corporate like lockdown that I was in.
Right.
Because that's important to me.
Now, before you quit that job, you got fired from a previous job. And you talked about how you really thought about walking away from YouTube, which I'm sure you're very happy that you did not do that, because we, again, probably would not be sitting here today. But how close were you to actually walking away? Was that more of an emotional decision, like, you know, at the time, or was it just like, I'm really going to sit down, I'm really going to think about this?
It was like, hey, is this worth it? Because you got to think that was I was maybe a year at most into the whole social media thing, and people weren't, you know, living these lives you see people on social media doing now. Like, it wasn't a thing, right? So it wasn't very common. It wasn't accepted into the world, and you know, I was like, shoot, it had been less than 6 months that I was at my first corporate job, and you know, I guess in my head, I was like, YouTube and social media will always be something I do on the side. But again, like I'll touch back to like what I said previously, like it wasn't like I had this expectation of like, I'm going to quit my job. It was like, I just happen to make YouTube videos and I work corporate. Like that's what it was. And yeah, no, I really did have a thought, because I felt like when I got fired, I was so afraid to tell anyone. I even told my roommate, he was like, why are you home? Because he was a bartender at the time. So he was like, it was like a Tuesday or something, and I was like, he's like, why aren't you going to work? I was like, I'm just taking a day off. He's like, you just started. Yeah, and I was just embarrassed. I felt like a letdown. I wanted to feel like a loser. I was like, man, all my friends, like, I got fired from my job because of this stupid YouTube thing where I'm making $100 a month. Like, you know, it's like, you know, what's the point? Like, there was just, and I was like, hey, this is my career. Like, you know, I need to focus on that. Like, I need to be realistic about, you know, what the future holds, because again, it wasn't a thing to be a YouTuber. You know, there was very few people that were doing it. So, you know, it wasn't even crossed my mind. But then I was like, you know, I like it. I was like, I think I can just switch up my content, maybe turn down the vulgarity a little bit, you know, maybe just think about the things that I say before I say them on camera. So I'm more, you know, to the masses, rather than trying to talk to gym bros and drop F-bombs every, you know, third word. So, yeah. And then I got an opportunity. My mom happened to know some people at the company that I ended up working at for a couple years down the street, and they were very aware of my YouTube channel, and I was just like, I just adapted,
Yeah. Do you think you're ever gonna leave YouTube? Do you think you're ever gonna have that day where you're like, goodbye and thank you?
I make clickbait a lot saying I'm going to quit YouTube. But
I know. There was one yesterday.
Yeah. I don't know. It's something that I'm super proud of that I've built. I think YouTube is an extremely hard platform. As if anyone can agree that unless you're this wild new personality, whether you're are you a Jake Paul? Are you an Addison Rae? Are you a Mr. Beast? Right? Unless you're this out of left field crazy, and a lot of people maybe think they are, but like you gotta ask yourself, like, are you that type of person? Like if not, then like it's very hard to build a YouTube channel.
Right.
Very, very hard to build. Like, and again, not everyone, you don't have to get all those views, but like, let's say like I've worked 8 years to get my views up to like around 100,000. That's hard to do. Like very hard, and especially to be consistent, and there's just so many kind of like internal struggles of, what type of people do content? What type of content do people want? What do I want to make? Well, I want to be this. I want to be authentic, but I kind of have to always step it up a little bit and do things maybe I wouldn't normally do because that's like what people want. You're constantly this internal battle of like what to film and how to film, and you want to be real, but you can't be too real because then you're boring, and you can't be too not boring because then you're not relatable, and you're trying to find this battle of feeding the people what exactly they want. But I don't know. I think I've joked about this and said that I think I have a solid, I don't know when I said this, but I was like, I think I have like 5 more years.
Right. So not in the immediate future by any means.
No. And I've always said, like, I think I'll make videos until people don't want to watch anymore. But what's wild is once you kind of develop an audience, it may not be the same amount of people you're watching now, but like, no matter when I put out a video, there's going to be some sort of people that still watch that content.
Right.
Like forever.
Right.
Forever. So I don't know. I think I like to do things until I don't enjoy doing them anymore.
Right.
Again, like powerlifting, gone through phases. And I think when I don't enjoy making YouTube videos, that's when I'll stop making YouTube videos.